morning. Be all the more diligent to confirm your calling and election. 2 Peter. Identity protection. Global investor Adolf Merkel loved his reputation to make money while others lost it. In the 2008 global market crash, he lost billions. His sense of identity was to be the one who always made money. Worth a mere $9.2 billion, Merkel took his life. We can also become depressed when whatever we place our sense of identity in diminishes or becomes lost. Peter reminds us that we have a true and lasting identity that can never be lost. Our true identity is that the Almighty God is our loving Father who rejoices in us. Our true identity, wrong line. He brought us back with nothing less than himself. And God in our flesh is Jesus. His true identity was not obvious for a time. The same is true for us for a short time now. Our true identity is not always obvious in the world either. But that identity is revealed. Our earthly identity becomes less important. We rejoice that our true and lasting identity in Christ can never be taken from us. Our true identity will soon be revealed when we reflect and shine in his glory with him forever. Let us pray. We pray thee, bring us by thy grace to see thy glory face to face. Amen.
Amen.
I'm next. I am really called today. The lesson is on being called to serve. And this month, the United Methodist Women have called to prayer and self-denial. And I am doing that program as well. And so I've been called many times, and I've already told you my call stories, but the story goes, the first one goes anyway, that the Sunday school superintendent went to the children's Sunday school class and said, I want to find out if you children have been learning everything that you've been taught. And I'm going to ask you some questions, and I want you to answer quickly and without having to think too much. Just answer my questions, and I'll know what you have learned. And so they got a little nervous, but they ears perked up, and they started listening. And the superintendent said, okay, first one's easy. What is small and has a swishy tail and runs up the hickory tree and cracks nuts? Pointed to the first little boy, and he said, I don't know. I don't know. So he went to the second and said, come on now, that is a very easy question. What is small, has a swishy tail, runs up the hickory tree and eats nuts? I don't know. Nobody would answer his question. And he said, what is wrong with you? That is the easiest question in the world. I'm just so disappointed that you can't answer that question. And so he said, I'm going to try one more time. You, what is small, has a swishy tail, runs up the hickory tree and eats nuts? And he says, I don't know. I know the answer is Jesus, but it looks like a gray squirrel to me. That's always a good story. I I know the answer is Jesus, but it looks, being called is fundamentally, I have been called more than once. You've probably been called more than once. And if you ask somebody who called you, you might not answer. You might say, I don't know. I don't know where my call came from. But I've been called 3 times. I'm going to quickly tell you this because it's important for us to hear the message of calling over and over again. Years and years ago, I had a scholarship to go to California and colonize a sorority chapter at Stockton College. It was a absolutely wonderful offer to me that I got at the National Convention, appointed to take this, and I would get my master's degree and I would live on campus and I would colonize or help colonize this sorority chapter. And boy, did I ever want to go. I mean, I was very excited about it. I don't think my mother and father were all that excited, but they said, if that's what you want to do, we'll, in fact, part of the deal was they would fly me home twice a year, and I would be there for 2 years. So my mother kept saying, I wish you wouldn't go, because you go out there, you're 21 years old, you will meet somebody and you'll never come home. You'll be out there. I said, no, I won't, no. But anyway, that my call was, came shortly after I had already booked my travel arrangements and packed my clothes. And I was out at somebody's house at the swimming pool, and somebody came and said, you got a phone call inside. And I went inside and I said, is this Margaret McNatt? And I said, yes, it is. And he said, this is Dr. Harden at John Gorey Junior High School, and I need to talk to you. And I said, really? He said, yes, I heard you have a degree in English, and I need a good English teacher at John Gorey. And I said, I'm sorry, Mr. Harden, I can't. I've already got other plans. He said, just give me 15 minutes. Come by and talk to me for a few minutes. So I left. I went over to John Gorey. I had not ever been in John Gorey, except I knew that that's where Dick went to junior high school, 789. And I went into Dr. Harden's office and sat down and started talking to him. And in 30 minutes, I had signed a contract to come to John Gorey and teach 7th grade English. And that was a turning point in my life. It looked like Dr. Harden, but it was far more. It was the calling came from a higher place, because that was the turning point in my life. It changed everything. I stayed home. My mother was ill shortly after that. She needed me there. I needed to be home. I had just started dating this young man named Richard Moore, and he had said, I wish you wouldn't go, but I didn't listen to that. But anyway, I stayed home, and you know the rest of the story there. That was, 50-something years ago. And it was a turning point in my life, and I said it looked like it was Dr. Harden that called me, but I think the calling came from a higher place. Second time I was called, by the way, that was to teach. Second time I was called, I was very happily in my car going out to University of North Florida to enroll in and to take some courses to upgrade my teaching certificate. You had to take 5 hours every 3 years, and I was due to do it. So I was in the car going out there, and I signed up, got my classes in order, but for some reason I decided that when I was enrolling, I wouldn't just take I wouldn't take 5 hours, I would take 15 hours. In fact, the counselor that was helping me choose my courses said, if you're going to take 15 hours, you might as well sign up for the master's program. Okay, so I did that, and I went out and I completed the master's out there, and it was wonderful. And I was now going to go on and do something else, and I got another call, and the call was from Davy Parrish. And she said, I understand you've just gotten a degree in counseling. And I said, yes, I have. And she said, well, I've got a position at the bridge in Northeast Florida. I really need a counseling teacher. I need the combination. And I said, I'm sorry, I've got something else on my mind. I'm going back into public school. And she said, please come talk to me. Didn't take but about 15 minutes, and I looked over the bridge. It was in Springfield, a place for after school troubled children that had all kind of problems, and they had a GED program for those who had dropped out in 5th, 6th grade. And they had a women's class, a young women's class, they were young, unwed mothers. They had children, and they had no education, and they had no prospects. And that was when I walked into that classroom, I was at home. That was the best teaching experience that I could imagine. I loved every minute of it, and as long as that program lasted, I was there. It was a grant program. And I was very, as long as the grant was there, I was going to be there. I had marvelous years at the bridge, and that was that call. It sounded like it was Davy Parrish that was calling me, but it was a higher calling because it gave me a different perspective of the world, a different perspective of the value of everybody's life. And I also, at the same time, I couldn't wait to get there every day. I wrote the curriculum, and I had the best time. I made up a running story about characters, and all the characters in the story were sitting in that classroom. And they didn't know it, but they identified with what was going on, And it was called Rita, and Rita was the main character, and they had to read the story that I presented them with the problem. Rita's boyfriend came, and he was mad at her, and he slapped her around, and he, abused her child, and all this kind of stuff, and what was she going to do? And the Rita part, I had, these were situations that they faced all the time. And they had to sit there and solve the problem by writing a solution. You got to have at least 3 things that Rita has to do to get out of this situation. And so they were learning, and they were dealing with their own problems at the same time, which was the counseling issue there. But that was another program that changed my life, and it was wonderful, and I just enjoyed it so much. The third call was Jean Dart. And I wouldn't be up here if she hadn't called. But it was the call to teach or to be a part of in a new Sunday school class that they felt like they needed. Young, married Sunday school class. That's us. And I said, that's who we are. But I told Jean I was busy. I had 2 children, and I was expecting a 3rd, and I just didn't know if I could, take the time to do a Sunday school class. And she said, just give it a try. Just give it a try. 6 weeks, and then we'll develop a team of teachers and, the rest. So I said, okay, for 6 weeks, and that was, 1971. So it's been a few years, and it's been another turning point in my life that has been so important and given me such an education and given me such joy to do it. So when I'm standing up here saying there is something to the calling, and you pay attention when you get called, because it may be coming from someplace very important. And, you know, I know it looked like Dr. Harden, you know, but it was Jesus. I know it looked like Lady Parrish, and it was the call of God on my life. I know it looked like Jean Dark, but it was a higher calling that I have. I'm glad I heard it. I don't think the voice is ever, you know, this is Jesus calling, I want you to do so-and-so. But it comes from that source. And so today when we're looking at a costly call, a costly call, sometimes it is. Sometimes you will give up everything you've got to answer that call and never once regret that you did it. The lesson today is a calling lesson, and it's from Luke 14:7 through 14. And we'll see if this works. This is, when he noticed how the guest, this is Jesus of the time is before he goes to Jerusalem. He is getting ready to go to Jerusalem, but he hadn't gone yet. So he is with his disciples or with his friends, and this is a story that he tells them to teach them something. When he noticed, Jesus is talking, when he noticed how the guests picked the places of honor at the table, he told them this parable. When someone invites you to a wedding feast, do not take the place of honor, for a person more distinguished than you may have been invited. If so, the host who invited both of you will come and say, "Give this person your seat." And you, then humiliated, will have to take another least important place. So, when you are invited, take the lowest place, so that when your host comes, he will say to you, "Friend, come, move up to a better place," and you will be honored in all the presence of the other guests. For all those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Then Jesus said to his host, when you give a banquet, a dinner, a luncheon, do not invite your friends, or your brothers, or your sisters, or your relatives, or your rich neighbors. If you do, they may invite you back, and so you will be repaid. But when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed. Although they cannot repay you, you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous. That's a beautiful lesson that Jesus gave to his disciples. And he just said, don't seek, seek first the kingdom of heaven and all of its attributes, and everything else that you ever wanted will be added unto you. So that is, you answer the call that you're given. You don't seek to elevate yourself or to make yourself more important, but you seek to take the lowest place and let the host move you where he wants you to be, and to be flexible in doing that. The wisdom of that parable is quite apparent. I think you probably experienced both sides of that in some way or another. All of us at some time or other have a too high of opinion of ourselves, and we may it may show a little bit. But if we are, if the call is on our hearts and it comes from a higher place, then I think you will figure out how to answer it and how to deal with it. If the call comes from someplace else that is just kind of a temptation for you to move to a higher place, just evaluate it and listen to who the call is from. And no matter what the person looks like, if the call is from Jesus, you will know it, and you can answer it appropriately. The lesson, of course, I guess, is on humility and on tending to the needs of other people, and it finds us at a place where we are just about to enter into the Lenten season. And the call for the Lenten season is to be in prayer and self-denial. To be in prayer and self-denial. And so I'm not going to go into that program because that's the program I'm doing for Methodist Women. But it is the Lenten season, and we are called to do some things during this season. Not particularly called to give up chocolate sundaes. Although if you do that, it may be good for you. In fact, you're not called to do anything that is just good for yourself, or that enriches your life, or that makes you stronger, better, faster, anything. That's not what self-denial is. The call to prayer is to spend time, really, on bended knees, to spend times, whether you are, with your head bowed and your eyes closed in prayer to God, who hears every word you say, and no matter what you ask of Him, says, He doesn't go to bed at night, so you can, anytime He's there, and anytime you want to pray, it's appropriate. But the call on our lives for this whole Lenten season is to be in prayer and to deny ourselves. Jesus said, if you want to follow me, what do you have to do? You have to deny yourself. You have to take up your cross and follow me. Now, what the cross He bore was for the sins of the world. But He was taking people who could not help themselves, and He was atoning for he was ministering to their problems, to their sins, to their needs. And so when you are called during this Lenten season to be in prayer, you know what? You've got to pray for your own needs, and you've got to pray for the needs of people around you. Self-denial, you have got to be in a mindset where you see needs and you want to address them, where you want to do something that will benefit someone who is, in the case of Jesus, they were lame, they were ill, they were sick, they were in all kind of terrible circumstances. They were hungry, and He always ministered to their needs. So we are called during this season to be aware of our prayer life and to be aware of the needs around us and to address them as we go through the next 6 weeks. And then we will be at a place to really celebrate the resurrection and to feel resurrected in our own lives. I think that covers us, what we are, what we're doing, and where we are. And I hope it is a blessed Lenten season for all of us. I do have a report from Janice. She called yesterday and talked and talked and talked. She really is missing the social aspect of the class. But she said to tell you all, she has felt your prayers and she is doing better. She is able to walk a little. The balance is not good, but she's able to walk and she is coming along. She asked for some help from the class. She needs somebody to come clean her house because she's not able to bend over to dust, to run the vacuum and anything. And although Patrick has tried to do it, she said, I would really appreciate it if you had any kind of cleaning service that you could recommend to me that could come through and do the job. Well, I have one. And I wondered if maybe the class, I said, Janice, I don't use this, but my brother used it at his condo at the beach, and I know it's a good outfit. And if you would like to have it, for a one-time go through clean up, I know what it will cost, and I'll, see. She said, well, she didn't believe she could afford it, but she could contribute something. And I said, well, let me solve that. So I'm coming to you as her Sunday school class and asking, can we appropriate $60 to get the As You Like It cleaning service to go over and spend, that would be 3 hours of cleaning. And I think that she said that probably is not a big apartment, but they could do it. And if you can, I will make the arrangements. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second. Third.
So moved and so voted. I think we approved it before we had the motion and the second.
I already have $23
I got
from
10.
this week, so if you want,
No, just keep it. I will go ahead and I'll make the arrangements and I will pay them, and then I'll talk to you about it.
okay, because,
I want her to know that it's the class.
yeah, well, Tommy, when he called the last time, he said he had $300. So I'm sure the class can afford it.
Or we can just take a special offering.
Yep.
Okay, well, I'll just, this isn't immediate. We're gonna have to make the arrangements. In fact, I'm looking, Patrick was supposed to be here today. I hope he's at church. If not, he was going to bring me the address and directions of how to get there that I could tell the cleaning people how to find them. But we'll take care of that and get her that cleanup job, and then hope that it encourages her. She wants to come back very badly, so amen, and thank you so much.
And Sissy, I wanted to say something. You did, you were talking about the, in Springfield, the bridge. I was involved a lot in that organization, and those kids walk for miles to come after school because they had someone there to help them.
Oh, that's,
It's just an amazing what they have done for these underprivileged children, and these kids come back year after year to help because they have gained so much from that
no, that was
organization.
one of the best
It is
experiences in my
amazing.
life. I was gosh, 5 or 6 years, and I loved every day of it. And that program that I was in was the Welfare Mothers, and that was discontinued. But the after-school services are still available. And I think that FCCJ took over some of the unwed mothers situations. We did that, but the bridge is marvelous.
They have a prom for kids that can't go any other way, and we used to collect the dresses for the girls to be able to wear, and used to bring all the food. It was just, it's a marvelous group.
No, it was one of the best highlights of my life. So, you just can't outgive God.
You can't.
whatever you contribute, the blessings just pour down.
Amen.
So, do remember that in a season when we are called on to be giving in the Lenten season. But remember that you cannot give that you don't get
And they're
huge
giving
return
back.
on anything that you do in the name of Jesus.
Amen.
Okay.
Thank you, ladies, and Mr. Randy. My garden circle went over and worked in the vegetable gardens that they had at the bridge. And there were children out there helping us, and it was a real fun experience. Esther is, oh, there you are. Okay.
Wednesday.
Special prayers for you this week as you go through your surgery. Wednesday.
Yeah.
And they'll keep you in the hospital, what, for 2 days?
I think only one day, depending how, it depends how it goes, it can be 1 or 2 days.
Okay,
You know.
okay.
And your timing, you know, things like that depends.
Any other concerns? Yes, dear.
On the 25th of April, Susan has.
Suzanne.
Susie, Suzanne, and
You got too many Susies.
anyway, she has graciously invited us to have a get-together at her house, a covered dish on the 25th.
Oh, how wonderful. Thank you, Suzanne. The 25th of April. I'll send an email out to everybody and remind everybody. And I heard from Tom Vogel this week, and he is going to be back at the beach for the months of April and May. And so he has graciously offered to teach the third Sunday in April and May. And I think everything is going well with him. He's busy with working, and but it'll be nice to see him. Any other announcements, concerns?
Yes, but.
Oh, yes, my guest. Oh, yes. Is it Becky? Becky, it's nice
I
to
visited with all of you last fall, and I have not been back to church since then, so I'm just delinquent.
Well, we're delighted to have you, Becky.
I remember Becky, what's your last name?
Becky, what is your last name?
Ryan,
Ryan.
I recognized her, but I didn't.
Yeah, yeah. Becky has been coming to church here for, yeah. And she did come to our Sunday school class last fall, I think, and we hope to see you again, Becky.
thank you.
And I have a guest. My baby brother is here, and his name is Bob. I call him Bobby. Yeah. And my sister-in-law, Betty, and they are here from Michigan, warming up. Okay, Tom, leave us laughing.
You don't want much, do you? Right? Oh, goodness gracious, say what? See if I can read this now, we'll be all right. Bob?
Yeah.
Is that far enough, or do I need to go higher?
You're okay.
Okay. This is an advertisement in a Long Island shop. Guitar for sale, cheap, and no strings attached. On a bulletin board, success is relative. The more the success, the more of the relatives. When I read about the evils of drinking, I gave up reading. My grandfather is 80 and still doesn't need glasses. He drinks right out of the bottle. The sign in the bar, those of you who are drinking to forget, please to pay in advance. Sign in the driving school, if your wife wants to learn to drive, don't stand in her way. Behind every great man, there is a surprised woman. I have to agree with that, probably. There is I said, behind every great man, there is a surprised woman. The reason men lie is because women ask too many questions. Laugh and the world laughs with you. Snore and you sleep by yourself. And the surest sun, the intelligent life exists everywhere in the universe, is the fact that it has never tried to contact us.
Very good.